Greetings brothers, welcome to the first painting video on this channel. So we've got Commander Dante. Obviously it makes sense to start with the Lord and Commander of our chapter. So it should be a pretty cool video. I actually recorded the entire footage of painting him. So let's jump in, check out the model, and then we'll run through the equipment and the paints we use to get this effect. So to get Dante ready for painting, base coat him with the Chaos Black, spray it all over the model, wait maybe 5-10 minutes for it to dry, then base coat him with the Retribution armour. If you spray a lighter coat of the Retribution armour with the black, you'll get a nice gradient in like the armour pieces and stuff, and I think I've kind of captured it here. It's worth noting that this is definitely a beginner tutorial. I am not the greatest painter, but if you're new and you just want to learn and get a sort of decent job, then this painting video will be perfect for you. So I really like to use Element Games character brushes. These are very cheap, maybe like £5-6. They're cheaper than the Games Workshop ones. I think they last well and they hold a point fairly long. Probably get like 20 or 40 hours out of painting out of them. You may also see me in the video using the Artist Opal size 0 brushes. These brushes are awesome, but you pay for them. They're like £13 a brush. You maybe get double, like I want to say you maybe can get 80 hours of painting out of these brushes. If you use brush soap and you keep them in good nick. So I prefer to use these all the time, but I mean needs must. Sometimes I prefer to use these ones just because it seems like it's a lot of money to be painting with the more expensive brushes all the time. So if you want to copy my scheme exactly, then this is the bundle of paints you will need, and it's quite a lot I suppose, but let's go through it. Wash wise, you'll need Drakenhof Nightshade, you'll need Reikland Flesh Shade, and you'll need Nuln Oil. So that'll be the 3 washes that you need. You also need a glaze, which is going to be Gilliman's Blue. You'll need 1 edge paint, I believe, which is going to be the Blue Horror. Then we'll need 2 dry paints. They are Praxi White and Tyrant Skull. Then you also need the texture paint for the base, which is Armageddon Dust. And then all the other paints, I guess all the paints are Games Workshop except this one, which is Vallejo Model Paint White. I feel like this just gives a much better white. It comes out of the bottle nicer as well. It's just a better, it's actually cheaper than Games Workshop. Look for this stuff on Amazon. I think it was like $1.99 for a bottle. It's an amazing white. And then the rest of the paints you'll need are Abaddon Black, Temple Guard Blue, but I suppose it depends if you don't think the Infernal Pistol needs the blue on it and you want to do a different colour. Warpstone Green, Ushati Bone, Brass Scorpion, Retribution Armour. I mean, I guess if you didn't make any mistakes and you painted perfectly, you might not need this one, but I definitely use it. Mournfang Brown, Xandri Dust, Mephiston Red, Dawnstone, Lead Belcher, Screamer Pink, Celestia, always get this one wrong, Celestra Grey, and the Fang. So yeah, quite a lot of paints you'll need to copy this guy, but a lot of these paints are used on all my Blood Angels, so if you do want to copy them, then we'll definitely use a lot of these paints again in the next videos. So it took me about 4 hours to film it. We're going to go through it at 20 times speed, and I do jump back and forth a lot, I do a lot of corrections, but this is definitely aimed at new players who are just learning to paint or just want to get something decent on the tabletop, and I hope this is useful. Leave me a comment below on anything that I could do to improve the video, and if you do like it, or if you want more Blood Angels content, considering hitting that like button or subscribing for more. Okay, so we're actually going to go at 5 times speed. I tried 20 times and 10 times. They're both too fast to pick up all the details on. So we're on 5 times speed. So the first thing I like to do with like Sanguine Regard or whatever, pretty much a lot of Space Marines actually, is I like to get Dawnstone, which is a nice light grey, and I like to paint it everywhere that we're basically going to make Lead Belcher afterwards. I think the Lead Belcher goes over the Dawnstone really nicely, and you don't, if you try and put Red Belcher over red or something, you end up struggling and having to do multiple coats and that. I think if you put down a nice coat of Dawnstone first, it just gets better coverage. So we're going to put it like in the jetpack, we're going to put it on the pipes, we're going to put it in his armor joints, and I'm going to do some of this off camera at the moment. So we're going to cut to just the Dawnstone where it's been. You can see that pretty decently. And then I kind of wanted to find a photo of Dante, because I was like, I've never painted Dante, this is kind of a bad, this is actually the metal model from like the early 90s. So next up, I guess I was struggling at this point, so I actually grabbed the Fang next and decided to do the base coat of the Fang, the sort of like dark blue, that'll be the base for his axe next. I guess sometimes when you are painting you can struggle, but I guess like my motto is just always keep trying to put paint on the model, and then don't worry about the end product, just keep adding the paint, and that's how I kind of beat any motivational problems that I have. Like, I don't think about completing, I just think about getting more paint onto the model. So if you're struggling, pick something easy. I think this is what I've done here. And then I mean, it's super easy to coat the axe blade, right? And then up next is the Moorfang Brown. So we're going to do all the little pouches on his belts, and that's going to just take, I mean, it's going to be quite quick. That's actually going to need 2 coats as well, because that Moorfang will not go over the gold very well. I mean, they always talk about lots of thin coats on the Games Workshop painting tutorials, and it's very true. So at this point, I'm going to try and put on some Mephiston Red. This is a very old pot of Mephiston Red I've actually got. It's like super thick, and it dries out really quickly, but I think I'm going to put it on the gun, and then we're going to put it on one of his knee pads, or maybe even both knee pads. And again, some of this is actually done off camera. Like, I didn't have the overhead rig that I now have. So we're about to probably jump to the overhead rig, and I think early in this video I'd never used the overhead rig before, and I realised that it wasn't capturing the footage nearly as well as I'd hoped. But obviously at the moment you're just seeing the back of my hand, so this isn't ideal. So overhead rig is better, but the first few times I used it were painting Dante and some of the other guys that I got in the Indomitus set, and the angle isn't great, so just bear with the angle and I'll talk you through what I'm doing. So this is the overhead rig working now, and I guess the Warpstone Green for the wreath on his head. You can see that the light here is like way too strong, because I use that magnifying glass with the light, and I didn't realise, like, I've probably filmed a good few hours of painting with the light being way too strong, and then obviously because I was figuring out the camera, in some of the other sections of the video the light is too dark, but we'll definitely get better at doing this. So yeah, so I guess just painted the wreath on his head with Warpstone Green, and then we took Screamer Pink, and Screamer Pink is used for obviously the purity seals, the little wax parts of them, and then some of the blood drops on his armor, I believe we painted Screamer Pink as well. It's kind of like my go-to sort of pink that we use for blood drops on a lot of the Blood Angels troops. And yeah, this guy's actually on a base extender, you can see it's very clear there. And then we start using the non-Games Workshop white. I noticed in the photo on the Games Workshop website they have sort of like a white in the back of above his helmet. So that's what that's for. And then Ushati Bone is what we use for the actual parchment on the purity seals. So as I say, this is a beginner painting guide. You could definitely take this guy and go further. I also use this on the shoulder pad where there's like parchment across the bottom of the shoulder pad, but I could have actually like put Agrax Earthshade over the top of these, but I never did. Like I leave the parchment very clean on my models, but that's totally up to you. And then I guess Retrobrucher armor. So this is as I say, I'm not the greatest painter, and sometimes you don't get a perfect coat from the spray. So I'll probably just be doing some touching up, and I think I touched up the top of the backpacks as well because certain areas of the spray just wasn't quite 100% solid. So that's what we're using the Retrobrucher armor for. Now we're back on to Mephiston Red, and I decided, I wasn't sure. I wanted to get more red on him because it's like Dante, he's a blood angel, but he's all gold. So I decided to border one of the shoulder pads with like the Mephiston Red. I just thought I'd like more red on him, basically. And then I think I did the little skulls on his axe in red as well. And I ended up going over a couple of blood drops that I'd done pink with the red. And then I guess I gave the gun a second coat because, as I say, these over gold, you're probably going to need to second coat everything. That's why we started with the Dawnstone. And like this is what I was talking about. So at this point, like some of Dante while I'm painting him is basically off camera, and I've lost basically 80% of the screen. So this was me figuring out, after I watched the footage back, I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. So touch up some of the red that we'd already given, that we'd already gone over. I think we do the shoulder pad again just to get that nice and solid. So I think we then got black and decided to do the not the handle, the bar of his axe. I don't know what you call that part actually. It's not the hilt. I guess it'd just be the long part of his axe. Decided to do that in black. Some of this was from the Games Workshop photo that I had found, and some of it was just ad-libbing. I think it's fun to be creative, and I think it's fun to have your army not like a carbon copy of everybody else's. So I mean, I guess that's what my thought was about with the black. And then I also rimmed the boots here. It's really hard to see. Again, I didn't really understand the overhead camera at this point, but you'll see I'm making a mess of the base. Basically on all my models I like to put a rim round the bottom of their boots in a different colour to the base, and usually in a different colour to the model. I think here I'm just putting some silver onto the upper part of the axe, and then the chain on the axe, or sorry, like there's a pipe there. I think we put Dawnstone onto that as well because that was going to become a different colour afterwards. And then obviously like the rim of the hilt, we put Dawnstone on that. And then put some Dawnstone on the very top of the axe as well too. And there's like a little bit that comes out into the blade as well. I don't know what you would call it. Essentially I think it's where like the lightning would, because it's supposed to be a power axe, right? So it's where the blade would be imbued with magical energy or whatever. And then we also put black onto the Infernal Pistol. So the Infernal Pistol, like most like plasma pistols or weapons, has like an energy bit on it, so sort of rimmed round that with the black paint. And then also near the head there was a big bit of parchment that I'd missed, so we went back to the Shatty Bone and put this in. This was, I mean, I guess periodically off camera, because this is a 4-hour video sped up to 5x, so every 1 second of video is 5 seconds in real life. So basically I probably had some breaks, probably checked the Games Workshop site again. And yeah, well, if I've missed a bit, then I'm doing a second coat on the bits that we did previously as well, just to get a nice solid colour. I guess my models really are for the tabletop, and yeah, so look, we're rimming the feet again for a second time, because the single thin coat quite often doesn't give full coverage. And because this was an old model, the feet were really badly defined, because it's an old metal model. And then so all the wings on the model, you see them there, they were actually painted in Celestia grey first, not Dawnstone. I guess maybe I missed mentioning that earlier, I guess. And then what we do with them is I like to put Null Oil into all of them. So it's basically Celestia Grey, then Null Oil, and then we actually dry brush with the Praxi White afterwards. This is the effect that I use on the wings for my Sanguinary Guard, and I think it comes out really nice, and it's a very simple technique, right? It's very hard to get white to look right on the wings, but this is a simple technique that makes it look really good. And then at this point, yeah, sometimes I put sometimes I base the model quite early in, so it depends when I'm battling, right? Because like I'm always battling, and Dante has been finding his way into a lot of my 9th edition army lists. So this is when I use the Armageddon Dust, which is the texture paint, and like I said, because these models were on the rims, we're trying to put like a lot of the texture paint into the rim between the 25 to 33mm base extenders. And yeah, so oh yeah, you could see me snapping to another model. Obviously we have to wait for that to dry, so this is probably like the next day or something now, and I'm basically getting my Praxi White. See me working a lot of the paint off out on my palette. I'm working on the edge of that like margarine tub that I keep my palette in, and then we're dry brushing all those winged areas that are in white with the Praxi White. It's very critical to have like 90-95% of the paint out the brush when you do this, because otherwise it'll just fill in, and you're really just wanting to catch like the edges, especially on these tiny little decals. So you get some paint in, and then yeah, you can see me scraping the brush basically on the palette, on the edge of the palette, trying to get rid of most of the paint, and then trying to be really light when we're actually working over the top of this. So it really gives the effect that it's like a wing with basically this. You can still see the Celestial Grey, you can still see the Null Oil, and you also get the Praxi White catching the edges. At this point we get onto some Lead Belcher. Again, I think at this point we're probably going to look to go over quite a bit of the Dawnstone with the Lead Belcher. I mean, and do the little chains, the pipes next to his death mask. We're probably going to do the feet because we did them in Lead Belcher. We'll do the handle of the gun. We'll do the vents on the jump packs. We'll do the grenade on his belt. The hilt on the axe, and I guess both below and above his hand. That's what I'm doing right now, above his hand while you can't see it. And then yeah, we sort of did his toes. Decided to do his toe silver. I don't know. I just thought it would be maybe break up the whole golden foot. Sometimes that's how I paint. Just try and break up some of the colours. Then the inside of the jetpacks, and then we're going to do the pipes on the jetpacks as well. And then we'll do some of the. I guess we'll do the joints between the armour pieces. The reason you see the light in the frame for a second there is like the USB charger just got loose, so I just need to turn it around and get that back in. I've had that light for like 3 years. It came off Amazon. I think it's a great thing. I think it lets me be more accurate with my painting than
than I ever was before, I guess. So yeah, you can sort of see me getting in between the leg pieces, in behind the knees, in behind the feet, the soles of the feet, the axe. So there's quite a lot of lead belcher on this model. And then here, look, I've messed up the lighting on this. I was trying to get the lighting to not be as bright and not be as shiny, because it was really hard to see in some of the earlier frames because it was so shiny, and now I've made it too dull. So if you're still here, thanks for bearing with me with this first painting video. I really hope that the next one, well, you know what, the next one I was painting a few models at the same time, so the next couple could suffer from this, but I'm hoping that as we go on, quality will improve. And yeah, so we're still doing the lead belcher. There was a lot to get done with this guy on the lead belcher. A lot of little nooks and crannies that are worth getting into. And then a bit of the gun as well. So I think it's also important to note that I do make a lot of mistakes when I'm painting, but I try not to let that bother me, and try just to touch it up afterwards and just move on. So if you do make mistakes, then I wouldn't overly worry about it, especially in some of these, like basically you're doing the rims and stuff. It can be very difficult. It's very easy to make mistakes. And I know some people like to use like a painting handle. I've got one, and I did use it before I got my magnifying glass, but with the magnifying glass I just find it harder with the painting handle, because obviously I've got a big magnifying glass between me and the model, and the painting handle would always like bang into it and stuff. So it does mean that because I'm touching the model all the time, if I do inevitably end up touching it somewhere that there's wet paint, and I have to do bits again. But yeah, it wasn't really super practical for me to work with the painting handle. So yeah, at this point with the lead belcher, I think what I'm doing now is doing like just the minor details, and also like on above his headpiece, I was just basically there's like screws basically, so it's just putting a tiny bit of lead belcher into the screw areas, so it really feels like anything, but we're doing work to basically break up the gold. And then we did his feet as well, like the base of his feet, and then yeah, when you see me just spinning the model around, I basically just have probably a little bit left on my palette, and I'm just wondering, is there anywhere else, or is there anywhere that looks like it could use a touch up to get finished. And I guess yeah, maybe I'm gonna do the axe hilt again. Sometimes on these older metal models, the paint really doesn't like to sit on them so much, so you end up doing a bit of work twice. And then I decided to do inside all the in all the rims on the Infernal Pistol. We decided to do silver inside them. And then yeah, so we've got some lighting back here, and we're back on Retribution Armor. So basically what I'm trying to do now is see all the mistakes that I've made from touching the model like we just talked about, and also from just I guess struggling to be accurate, or failing to be accurate might be a better word. It can also depend on like how well your brush is, like it's always easier to paint with a brand new brush, but you can't use a brand new brush on every paint session. So by the time, I think probably, like I said, some of my brushes we go with like for 40 hours, so 30 hours in, your brush doesn't hold that great a point, and you might end up having like one bristle sprayed. So yeah, just got some Retributor Gold, and especially around the feet. I really struggled with the feet because it was a really old model, like I said, and there was no actual rim for the paint, so basically just had to freehand the rim onto the feet. In the end, I think it looks okay, but yeah, it was just a little bit difficult. And then when you're trying to get into some of these gaps, you're inevitably going to go over the gold. So now we're going to touch up again, more Mephiston red. I guess like I would just guess I wasn't happy with the, even though we've done 2 coats of this Mephiston red already, I guess part of the model just felt like it needed a bit more love. And now we do the top of the axe with the red, and we make sure that we've I guess just tidy up anything else that looks like it could use a bit of Mephiston red there. And then we're back to gold, so likely I made a mistake putting the red in. I do jump back and forward sometimes. And then the purity seals, they hadn't had a second coat of Screamer Pink, so we got that. And then I guess meanwhile, I guess I'm seeing more things that I'm not happy with. Maybe like one of the blood drops didn't look red enough, so went and dealt with that. And then for the wings on his back, I decided to do the top part of the wing black, just to make them stand out and just be a little bit different from the wings on the front. I do come back later and give this a second coat as well, and then we touch up the axe handle a little bit, fix the feet for like the 3rd time. Like I said, I'm not the greatest painter, but I think if you have persistence and patience, then you can get to where you want to be. And I guess while I was doing the feet, made some mistakes on the ground that we've previously done with the Armageddon dust, so we would just go over that with Xandari dust. And then Agrax Earthshade was a paint that I didn't mention that we needed, but we do need it, and the only thing I believe I used it for was to paint over the texture paint on the base. So we do use Agrax Earthshade here, so sorry if I didn't mention that. I'm then going to get the Tyrant Skull, which is again going to be dry brushed onto the base. You can see me working a lot of it out of the brush, and that's very much how I just do my sands. So it's a coat of Xandari dust, a coat of Armageddon dust, Agrax Earthshade wash, and then a Tyrant Skull dry brush. That's how I've done my whole army. Oh, and I guess here we I guess I was working on my Judicar at the same time. So yes, obviously, basically basing or batch painting a few guys at the same time is how I roll. And then always cleaning up the rim at some point as well. So Temple Guard blue is the blue that I decided to use for the Infernal Pistol, and we only need a tiny bit of it. It's just for that one sort of where the energy of the Infernal Pistol is. And I mean, some people like to do them in green. I guess I like to do it in blue. And then I guess while I was in there, I got my Brass Scorpion. I may have not mentioned Brass Scorpion actually. I only used it for the barrel of the Infernal Pistol. So you could use, you could easily keep that gold or silver, you know. The reason I use the Brass Scorpion is it's quite a dark, old looking brass. Like if you give it a wash of null oil, it looks really old and ancient, and I used the Brass Scorpion on the pipe on his axe as well, like the energy wiring or piping or whatever you want to call it. I like that it gives the feeling that, like, for example, Commander Dante's 4,000 years old, right? So like, how old is his Infernal Pistol? And I use it on like my Relic Leviathan, I used it on the Relic Contemptor, I used it on my Falchion, so like old models, or models that potentially are old in game, like they're from 30k or whatnot, or in this case Commander Dante, I guess it would be from like 36k because he's 4,000 years old. I like to give them brass scorpion because I think it looks really good. Meanwhile, I guess I put another coat of white in behind his head, and then I guess I am touching up red for the 4th time now. I mean, these little blood drops and stuff, they're bad enough to paint on the new plastic models. On the old metal models, the paint just sometimes just doesn't want. I'm touching up all the white with the Vallejo. So this is the only time I use the Vallejo white. Or not, maybe, you know, I think I used it in behind his head as well, but we're just basically rimming some of these wings. The wings on his belt, on his boots, the wings on his axe, the wing on his chest, just giving them a little bit more definition with the white. And yeah, like this white just flows really nicely, so it's a really solid choice if you're struggling to know what white to use. And now I'm just inspecting to see if I've missed anything. I think I did another bit of white on his axe, like I really wanted that axe to stand out. Okay, and now we get to some washing. So this was basically Null Oil. We're going to put this over quite a lot onto our palette here, actually. You can see it here. And then we're going to go into all the silver, or all the lead belcher is going to get a coat of Null Oil. I think the wreath on his head is going to get a coat of Null Oil as well. The vents on the jump pack, so that'll probably be the front and the back. We're going to do his toes, or his boots, I guess, whatever you call it. The barrel for the infernal pistol, like I said, that'll give you that really nice grim dark looking bronze on there. The pipe on the infernal pistol, we'll definitely be doing the pipe on the axe. We'll do the pipes on his jetpack. So with the black wash, is not like, it's not crazy thick. It's just a nice, I suppose it's hard to explain, but it's just basically a coat of the black wash so that you don't get like the tide marks where if you put down too much it like pools in areas. And if you do see it pooling in areas, then I guess clean off your brush and try and absorb some of it, because it just sort of looks nasty when it pools in areas. But yeah, so Null Oil is one of my friends calls it liquid. Is it liquid skill? So like it looked okay, and then you put on the Null Oil, and all of a sudden your model looks like you're a pro painter. So we put Null Oil on basically all the silver. We're going to put it on all the brown as well. So like the little pouches on his belt and stuff, and also the handle of his axe. So basically it gives like a distressed leather look as well. Really great paint, Null Oil. And then look, so I'm getting some Retribution armor out because I'll definitely have got, like, the oil, I guess, has run into some areas that I'm not happy with. So like I said, I jump back and forth a lot. But I always just aim to try and get some more paint onto the model so that we always feel like I always feel like I'm progressing and I never get burnt out. And then we're back onto white. So again, doing the top of this axe, really wanted this to stand out, I guess. And I guess a couple of these boot wings as well, got another coat of white, just the tops of them, to try and make them pop out. I think just some other general tidying up with the white was done here as well. Okay, and now we get Reichland Flesh Shade, and again it's just like sort of a reasonable coat, but I'm going to put this Reichland Flesh Shade on all the gold. So just anywhere that has gold, which is most of the model I guess, right? Again, I don't want it to be too thick, like you'll still get tide marks with this, with the flesh shade if it is put down too thick. But it really changes the Retributor gold from like it's hard to explain. Like, I guess before you do that, the Retributor gold just is a bright gold, like you would expect. But once you've put the Reichland Flesh Shade on it, I suppose it just gives it a red tinge, really, sort of a glowy red tinge. And yeah, I don't know. The first time I did it, I wasn't super fond of it, but now I've sort of grown to love it. So yeah, just basically get it everywhere. And if you struggle here, because I definitely struggled at points, sort of a hack that I sometimes do is, if the wash does go on and leave a tide mark, or if the wash does go on and you're not happy with it, if it's a very small area, you can almost mix the paint you used before with a tiny bit of the wash, and just paint over it. So I think I did a little bit of that there, where it was like just basically mixed the tiniest bit of Reichland Flesh Shade with Retributor Gold and just painted over somewhere that I wasn't happy with. So we're back on the gun now, so we give the gun the second coat of the Temple Blue. Just previously to that we used the black to basically get that nice and straight and sort the gun out so it looks good. Okay, excuse the cut here. We were as I say, we had a few different painting projects on the go for this one. So we're back onto Dante, and this time we get the Drakenhof Nightshade now. And oh no, this isn't Drakenhof Nightshade at all. Sorry, this is me back on black. Again, I guess tidying up the rims of those wings on the back, giving them their second coat. Giving the handle of the axe a bit more. I mean, I guess I suppose it depends on how much of a perfectionist you are and how happy you are with what's gone before. So we're now putting more white in behind his head. Like, I guess when you paint white into a flat area, sometimes you need quite a lot of coats to get like a solid colour, and especially because it was gold before, it's sometimes very easy for the gold to still show through or the white to not be smooth. So that's the reasoning behind that. And then I guess there was maybe a little bit of the wreath that I wasn't happy with as well, so we're going to go back in there with a bit more Warpstone green. And now we're going back to red. I believe that I did the eyes in red, the tiniest little bit of red. I wasn't really sure what to do with the face, and I thought the death mask with no colour at all to it might look a bit meh, I guess, like I wasn't going to be happy with it. So I put a tiny little drop of red into both eye sockets and put a little bit of wash into his mouth. Now we get the Drakenhof Nightshade and basically shade over that Temple Blue just to give those energy panels on the gun a little bit of definition. So that's the only time you need Drakenhof Nightshade, so you could probably yeah, and then look, this is me mixing the wash. Like I said, I guess there was a part of the face that I wasn't happy with. And then we hadn't given the axe a second coat of the Thang yet, so now seemed like a good time to return to the axe. This the very second thing we painted when we weren't sure where the model was going. So we return there and paint up the axe with the second coat of the Thang. Charge my light up again, and trying to get a really fine tip on the brush now. And I put a bit of wash over that green on the wreath now, because obviously if I've touched it up then it would have lost its wash. There's a little bit of touch up needed on the backpack as well. I guess maybe that's where my fingers were holding it. And now we go on to the blue horror. So we only use this blue horror for edging of the axe. And straight away I believe I made a mistake here. Like I tried to get it on the edge of my brush, but for whatever reason we ended up with a really thick line. So I ended up just going straight back to the Thang and coating over it and just being like, basically rage quit. Must have been at the end of a painting session. So come back at the start of the next painting session, and this time use the edge paint and try and get the edges done on the axe. Basically I'm just going to try and do a very... So this is probably the only edge highlighting you have on this model, where I just basically edge the whole axe with a view to try and show like it's a glowing power axe. And then after we're happy with the edge highlight, that's when we're going to use our glaze. We're going to use the Guilliman Blue to basically just glaze the whole axe. But moving back, just touching up some of the red that we did again on the gun, I guess, and on the knee pads. Yeah, I guess it can be quite tricky, and I guess as I say, I wouldn't say I'm a super beginner, but I don't think I'm a great painter. But I guess what I'm good at doing is being accurate. So then I went back and got more Fang and tried to smooth out some of these lines. Like when you're doing edge highlighting, it's very easy to have the lines too thick. It's always easier to just paint your lines on and then go back and correct. So basically I went back and tried to correct some of the lines just to make them a bit thinner, a bit more defined. And yeah, at this point I'm starting to feel reasonably happy with him. And then here's your glaze. So we basically just need a tiny bit of the Guilliman glaze, and we just put it all over the axe. And I guess that'll just give the axe a little bit of shine and a bit of pop. Again, just making sure it doesn't pool anywhere. I mean, at this point, I guess he's very much just about done. But I'm touching up those red blood drops for about the 6th time now, I guess. I did not realise that I knew I was a little bit picky when I did my painting, but I didn't realise it was quite as bad as this. I mean, I guess it might not be as bad as if you use the painting handle, but I really need the magnifying glass. It just helps me so much with my eyesight. I really struggle to see the details without the magnifying glass. So, and then I guess we're touching up some final white, and that is it.
thanks again for watching. Really appreciate you guys that stayed to the end. I hope it really helps get you guys a cool Commander Dante leading your Blood Angels into battle. Alright, we'll see you guys in the next one. Until next time, by the blood are we made. Peace.